forbid you are sitting in this place saying, I don't care about legacy. You need to care about it because somebody's got to live in the life you have. You are passing something down whether you want to or not.
What if? Have you ever asked yourself that? What if? What if it doesn't work out? What if it does? What if I get hurt? What if I fail? What if I win a bunch of money? What if we crash? What if it's time to actually admit I need help? What if it's time for me to start speaking up for myself? What if it's time to start saying yes more and not regret as much? What if I actually put an idea out and go for it? What if I challenge myself to write that book? What if I don't write that book? What if I send that text? But what if I don't? You ever asked yourself that question, what if? Welcome to the Mindset Mastery Podcast. I am your host, Coach Sam Velazquez, and all too often, we ask that question, what if? Either before you leap or after you miss. And here's the thing. By the end of this short episode, I want myself, I want you, the listener, I want you to know how to stay on the front end of what if and sidestep regret. Because all too often, if we're being honest, I think we can find ourselves potentially regretting in hindsight that we didn't go for something. And there's a lot to that, of course, and we could look at this in so many different angles, but I want to talk about the what if from the perspective of faith and obedience to the what if I actually step out and take the leap. You know, imagine this in a place known as Menlo Park Lab. It's 1879. You're just out of Newark, New Jersey, and your name is Thomas. Imagine that for just a second. Now, Thomas had already failed thousands of times, and the struggle is real. But the turning point was Thomas decided on the front end, what if on this 1000th and first try, it works? What if it actually works? Even though he had failed thousands of times leading up to that moment, he still decided after each failed attempt, he looked at it from the front end of what if this next attempt is the one that actually breaks free. Thomas, by the way, his last name is Edison. And in 1879, it was then when he, after thousands of times, finally figured out how the filament would actually glow inside of a light bulb. It's amazing, right? Had he quit, had the what if made him decide to not continue, we would maybe not have the light bulb. Who knows, right? We might still be lighting candles tonight. But that's the power of a what if, is deciding on the front end to be obedient to the thing you cannot see and be filled with a faith and hope for the best. Because I'm going to give it to you right now on the front end. The truth is, or at least I like to believe this perspective, that the what if it works causes me to step out in faith and obedience and take the leap, and it doesn't work out, that's the kind of what if that at least doesn't leave regret. Because now I know. Because failure isn't a bad thing. It's not, failing isn't a, life is over. It is a teaching moment. It is a reflection moment. It's a time to look back and say, okay, I just did this 1,000 times. The filament isn't glowing. But what if on this next one I do this and it actually works? Erin Hanson said, "What if I fall? Oh, but my darling, what if you fly?" You know, it's easy. Can I be honest? There's so many times I can think in my life where it's easy to buy into that thought of what if this doesn't work out? What if I look foolish? What if people make fun of me? What if I fall? But what if you fly? What if it works out? What if it actually doesn't just impact you, but it impacts many people's lives? What if? I get it can be scary sometimes, but that's exactly where I'm bringing this thought, this idea of the question I think we commonly ask ourselves, maybe even subconsciously, what if? You know, the truth in Hebrews 11, and I've brought this scripture to the podcast multiple times, but it's such a well-known and not to be cliche or beat a dead horse, but it's the truth. Because faith, according to Hebrews 11:1, is the substance of things hoped for. It's the evidence of things not seen. See, Thomas Edison had hope for his discovery of how a filament would bring a glowing element to the bulb. He had evidence that it could work. Something in him turned his what if into keep going, take the next step, try it again, one more attempt, because this could be the one. Something in him, right, caused him to take his faith and then turn it into action, to actually put works with faith, right? Because God says faith without works is dead. So I could believe for something all day long, but not necessarily take the leap, take the step, put myself in a position to actually try something, right? Because then I'm still just living in the what if it doesn't work. And so I don't do anything, right? Which then can often and at times lead to regret. See, the idea is that we want to move from to front end versus back end what ifs. See, the front end what if sparks hope. It's what if this works? What if this turns out for the better? What if it doesn't, but we learn something for the next time we take that step forward? The back end what if, see, it invites regret. It is a what if I'd kept going? See, we walk away from the action or even taking the step or being obedient and trusting the process. And so we are kind of littered with the what if, I wonder, right? Would be another way we put that is, I wonder what would have happened. It's the woulda, coulda, should've moments. What if I just would have kept going, right? There's a book, and I can't remember the title, but it's like 1 foot or 7 inches from gold or something like that, where a gentleman had bought a piece of land and he dug and he dug and he dug. And I'm paraphrasing and I'm making these up just to make a point, but it is close to this principle idea. So forgive me if you know what book I'm talking about and you're like, that's not what happened. But it basically is that idea where a true story where a gentleman bought a piece of land and for gold and he mined it. And he mined and he mined and he mined and just did not get there. I mean, hundreds and thousands of feet, if I recall. And it might be 7 feet from gold. But another gentleman got wind of it and bought it. And within his first day, he dug that extra 7 feet and hit like the jackpot. I mean, so much gold. And I think about that because now who could have known, right? This isn't a beat ourselves up if we've said what if so many times that because we regretted not doing something. That's not the point. It's to get us to start thinking about what if I make the attempt regardless of the outcome. What if I make the attempt based upon the hope-filled excitement and possibility of what God has for us out in front of us that we can't yet see, but we're trusting. What if, right? Versus the, what if it doesn't work out? What if I fail? What if I fall? All the things I've already mentioned, because it's so common to be paralyzed. See, and in today's culture too, and I've said this before, is we're littered and riddled with so much comparison. And so now you have to play the game of, well, what if I don't look like that? Or what if somebody finds out that I'm not as far along as the other person? What if they think I eat all this stuff? It's crazy. But what if What if you said yes? What if you stepped out in obedience? What if you actually took the risk, if you want to call it that? What if you actually took the thing that God's put inside of you and you got to work with it? And what if it started to transform people's lives? What if it caused you to grow? What if it helped you become a better leader? What if it actually started to create impact and transformation inside the four walls of your home? What if that book you write may not sell 1,000,000 copies, but the 500 it does becomes so impactful that it creates a ripple effect that you could not have even imagined? What if? You see, we have to change the idea of the core principle of the what if, right? That faith, right, with work, faith in action precedes fulfillment. And we can't be worried about fulfillment as much as we are just being obedient to the what if possibility of something, right? Second Timothy anchors this for us, right? That it's God's not given us a spirit of fear, right, but of power, love, and a sound mind. And we need to reframe our mindset. We need to reframe our thinking, right? Here's a little acronym for you. I'm just going to go quickly through it because I want you to have something tangible, maybe. But either way, it's just FEAR, right? A acronym is the F is that face the fear, right? Identify it, acknowledge it. It's okay to, be in a what if this works out and then have that moment of maybe what if it doesn't, but don't let that back end determine then you not taking action. So face the fear, identify like, oh my gosh, what if this doesn't work out? Okay, but what if it does? And more importantly, what if I don't attempt it? What am I going to learn from that? Nothing. So face the fear. Then the E, embrace God's promises, right? He's with us. He's with you. He's for you. God's plans are to prosper us. God's plans are good. God's plans for us are an abundance of things beyond what we could imagine or think. He is for us, so who could be against us, is what the truth of God's word says. So embrace God's promise. And then act in obedience. A is act. Act in obedience. One small step, right? You do not have to say, what if this works out? And then take 9,000 steps at once. Have it all figured out. Then we don't need faith. Remember, faith is the substance of things hoped for, and it's the evidence of things not seen. So we cannot expect that one step is enough. It's just at least gets you moving in the direction of being obedient to being faithful and taking action. And then the R is rejoice. Rejoice in growth. Listen, the truth is this. As much as I want to be optimistic and all the things, right? We just live in a crazy world. But the truth is, I think we fail to do this sometimes. And hopefully we're learning from it. We're recognizing now it's not good, right? It's like, I'm only going to give you the positive sides of things and then not speak to the other things that are actually positive, but we just don't talk about them because we don't want you to feel like it's negative, right? But rejoicing in growth doesn't mean that you're rejoicing because the fulfillment came or that the outcome was exactly what you wanted or that everything went perfect. Rejoice means in growth specific is that growth comes through trials, tribulations, storms, failed attempts, multiple failed attempts, right? And that's Thomas Edison. I don't know if he was rejoicing. He was probably throwing things. I can imagine the amount of broken, failed attempt of light bulbs that were out there. Again, who knows? But I know in my raw, honest self, it would be hard to rejoice. So remember, face the fear. E, embrace God's promise. A, act in obedience. And then R, rejoice in the growth, no matter how it comes. And growth sometimes comes through failure, trials, storms, tribulations. Learn to rejoice in it. Here's a practical application for you. Maybe for if you are a journaler or someone who wants to write things down, my encouragement would be write down today the front end what if. Okay, the things that you are hoping for, desiring, maybe trying to have faith for, and right, it says the faith of a mustard seed can move mountains. So it's just a tiny little step Take it, write it down, what it is that you're like, what if? Okay. And then list that actionable step that you can take. You're hearing this on a Wednesday. Write it down and figure out what that actionable step is by Friday. If it takes you that long, but no longer. Write it down, right? And then choose faith over fear. Okay. Today's what if becomes what's next. Nelson Mandela said, courage is not the absence of fear, but the triumph over it. That's why we had to recognize the fear. It's okay to know that it's there, but it's not the absence of it. It's that we triumph over it. Nelson Mandela said that. And then, hey, if you want to grow in life, okay, here's a what if for you. What if you started telling people what your what ifs were so you can have some accountability? Tell a friend, a mentor, a coach, your spouse, a family, whoever, but tell someone, right? Pick that one front end what if and then take an action step by Friday, right? And then tell someone about it. Remember, we are going to be riddled with what ifs our entire lives. But what if you can start operating from the front end what if versus the back end what if? And remember, it is simply recognizing that failure is part of the process. Recognize fear, but triumph over it, because God's not giving you a spirit of fear, but of power, love, and a sound mind. And you have got this. So I do not know what your what if is, but I know this. Whatever you choose to do, God is with you. He is for you. And if He is for you, what can be against you? So what if you wake up and you actually just start taking steps of faith towards the thing that is in your heart, the desire that God has put there? And what if it begins to transform not only you, your family, possibly your marriage if you're married, and the people around you in ways that you can't even imagine? What if? You guys, I appreciate you tuning in today. As always, if you are joining for the first time, thank you. Hey, subscribe, leave a comment, a review. I'd appreciate it. And if you want to connect beyond that, I have some free resources in the show notes. I send out a free weekly email, as well as I help Christian entrepreneurs win and work without compromising what's at home. So if that's you and you want help turning your purpose into profit, hey, sign up for a free coaching call. I would love to help you and take you through a 5-day mini challenge. It is absolutely free. It is life-changing and giving, and help you take what it is you feel God's put inside of you and actually turn it into profit. So again, sign up for that free coaching call. And as always, Coach Sam Velazquez with the Mindset Mastery, and we'll see you on the other side. Peace.
God forbid you are sitting in this place saying, I don't care about legacy. You need to care about it, because somebody's got to live in the life you have. You are passing something down whether you want to or not.